Good morning to Jack, and a very good evening to all of us here. And I'm Siri here. Sat, are you there?
Yes, so I'm Sat, and myself and Shri, both as you know, the voice is echoing, just take care. Myself and Shri, both as you, many of you know that we are co-directors of Enormoship Coaching, a unique model, a unique transformational model of coaching, and we are both ICF certified coaches and mentors as well, and licensed NLP trainers by Dr. Richard Bandler, and also the Kundalini Yoga teacher, and many more things are there to our credit as well. And it's not the time to talk more about us. And to sum up in one sentence, I would say that our vision is to help people achieve the best by being the best version of themselves. And that's what I have to say. Yes, Siri.
So today we have the one and only one, Jack Canfield, with us. You know, an award winning speaker, internationally recognized leader in personal development. He's a co author and author to several bestsellers: Chicken Soup for the Soul series, The Success Principles, Dare to Win, The Power of Focus, and many, many more books. He's a transformational speaker, who just doesn't motivate but inspires to really bring great transformation in people's life. He's a corporate trainer, which also includes Fortune 500 companies. He's an entrepreneur who is a creator of true wealth. And Jack's vision is empowering people to live their highest vision. And he has done several trainings the world over. And the beautiful part is that his trainers and coaches trained by him have also effective a massive change in the lives of millions from small town to the big CEOs in major organizations. And when we met Jack, I'm sorry, there was a lot of echo. So when we met Jack in India, that was something which was so beautiful. I found him so humble, so knowledgeable, a very, very kind soul, very, very spiritually uplifted, and a lot more I can really talk about him. I was really touched by his, genuineness, which is just kind of love. When you meet him, it just flows from him. And just recently, even he did not wait to voice against the racial injustice. He's an ambassador of humanity. So today we are here to seek this wisdom from Jack Canfield.
I got muted out there. Hello, Siri.
Yeah, I appreciate all the participants who are here with us presently. They're virtually present, but I know they are close to our heart. And I'm deeply touched by the enthusiasm that every one of you have shown and the interest that you have expressed to hundreds of questions. They kept showering. I think nearly 500-600 questions we received. We are so pleased to have received many, many queries, and we hope that we will be able to cover as many as questions possible, but it's not possible to cover all the questions. But we only assure you one thing on behalf of Jack, that you will get the worth of time that you're spending. You will get the worth of the trust that you've shown being present. And that I can assure you.
So, Jack, I really welcome you from the core of my heart for this insightful masterclass. And the topic today is about true success, what it is, and how to achieve it. And many viewers, including myself, are very curious and are really keenly waiting to ask you, lot of questions about it. So the first question, that has really come up, what everybody has asked is that what is really true success and how does one measure it?
Well, I used to think that success was being able to do whatever you wanted to do. And for most people, that meant, being able to make a lot of money, be able to travel wherever they wanted, be able to, accomplish whatever achievements they wanted. But over the years, I've really re-vectored that and changed my definition of success to true success is fulfilling your soul's purpose. Now, what does that mean? I believe that every single person is born with a purpose to fulfill. Some people are born to make music. Some people are born to be mechanics. Some people are born to end hunger in the world. Some people are born to be educators and teachers. Some people are born to be chefs and work with food. So whatever that thing is, and some of us discover that very quickly, you know, even as a young child. Some people want to play the violin, or they want to play the tabla, or they want to play, you know, a musical instrument. Other people just can't seem to stop drawing. Other people, you know, want to be, I met a professional organizer recently, and she said that she spent all of her time as a child going into her grandmother's closet and her mother's closet and organizing all her clothes, putting the white blouses together to blue blouses and so forth. And so what happens is the universe needs everyone to do what they're here to do, then every need gets fulfilled. And so the question has to be, how do you find out what is your true purpose? And there's a number of exercises for doing that. If you look to see what is it that brings you the greatest joy, we have an internal feedback system that says when I'm experiencing joy, it means I'm on course to do that which I was born to do. When I'm feeling constant negativity, it means I'm probably doing something I don't want to do. I don't know about India, but in America, we find that 80% of people say they don't like their job. They're doing it to make money, but they're not doing their passion. They're not fulfilling their true purpose. And so they're unhappy. Stephen Covey said, you don't want to get to the top of the ladder and realize the ladder's leaning against the wrong wall. And a lot of people have been pursuing what they think is socially success, but not true. So there are a number of exercises in my book and the courses I teach and so forth that you can do. There's guided visualizations, there's paper and pencil tests you can take. But the basic idea is to discover what is your purpose and then to fulfill that. And when you do that, you may not be the richest person on the planet, but you'll be happy. My purpose, for example, is to inspire and empower people to live their highest vision in the context of love and joy. So I inspire people with books like the Chicken Soup for the Soul books. I empower them with tools like I teach in my books, the success principles, you know, the Latin factor, things like that. And in the seminars that I do and the online courses I teach. So I'm fulfilling my purpose now as I talk to you. And I spend my day fulfilling my purpose. So I'm happy. I sleep really well at night.
That's really great. I like the last word you spoke, that I'm even finding the joy in speaking to you, and I'm
Yes,
fulfilling the purpose in this as well.
exactly.
That's great, amazing. Okay, so in the same line, you know, the one question that the viewers asked, that when you want to live the purpose, so how do you set that vision, that is the purpose? And of course, you spoke something about that. Yes, this is in your book, but can you throw some idea about it? That what is the way I should find my purpose apart from being happier, and
Yeah, sure.
how
A
to create a
couple of,
vision?
yeah, well, we talked about joy being a feedback mechanism. So one thing you can do is you can set aside some time. If you want, put on some relaxing music, often called environmental music. It might be spiritual type music where it's not a lot of, you know, drums and things, and it's relaxing. And then you ask yourself, you do what we call a joy review. Where have I experienced the most joy? And for me, when I did that, I realized I felt the most joy when I was either learning something or when I was teaching it. And so my life's about learning new things. Like I'm constantly learning new technology, new strategies, new abilities to work with people, like EFT tapping, NLP, neurolinguistic programming, things like that, that speed up the empowerment of people and removing their blocks. So for me, it's like going back. I had a client who was a student at Ohio State University, and she loved animals as a child. So she thought her purpose was to be a veterinarian. And when she went to school, she was taking all these classes on biochemistry and anatomy and physiology. She was miserable. And she thought, this doesn't make any sense. And what she realized, I love animals, but I don't love the science of healing animals. And so she sat down one day and she said, okay, you know, I advised her to do this, to sit down and really review when was I happiest. And what she found was whenever she was in a leadership position, she had been the class president in her high school. She was a leader of her sorority. When students would come on campus from high schools to be exploring whether or not they wanted to come to the university, she was one of the guides that took them around and explained the campus to them. And she said, I was really happy doing that. And so she realized what I love is leadership. And so she went to the university and said, I want to get a degree in leadership. Now, we all know how important leadership is, but they didn't have a degree program for leadership. And so she asked, can I create one? You know, can I take some journalism classes, some speech classes, some, you know, social science classes, et cetera, and influence psychology and so forth. and they let her develop an independent study program. At the age of 24, she was working at the Pentagon, which is our military headquarters in America, teaching leadership to people who had graduated from West Point. So the reality is, and she's now very, very happy. She's developed a leadership academy for young women, and she goes around the country and the world teaching leadership, and is extremely happy. So I'll tell you one other technique you can use. Ask yourself, what are two qualities that I love to most love to express in the world? Two qualities I love to express. So for me, it's love and joy. I'm a very loving person. I'm very joyful, sometimes even irreverent. So I have a lot of fun in life. Now, the other thing is that you then ask, how do I most love expressing those in the world, those qualities? And for me, it's when I'm teaching people, and when I'm inspiring them with Chicken Soup for the Soul stories and writing. I love writing those stories and writing those books. And then when I'm teaching tools, like I'm teaching a little bit today here. And so what happens is you then ask yourself the last question, which is, if the world were working perfectly according to you, what would be happening? So according to me, everyone would be living their highest purpose, which I just said, their highest vision of what their life would be. And so then you combine all that into one statement. So for me, it's called inspiring and empowering people to live their highest vision in the context of love and joy. So it incorporates all of that. My wife's two qualities are transparency and authenticity. You know, what you see is what you get. She's just very real. And so she inspires other people to be real by being so real herself. So basically that's her purpose. And literally her friends call her a day maker. Whenever she's around them, they always say, you made my day, because she's so uplifting, because she's so real and so spontaneous. She's very funny as well. So those are two techniques. There's a guided visualization I do in my seminars, my online and my regular seminars, but it's too long to actually go through right now. But it involves going up to the top of a mountain, going into a temple, having a wise being or an angel coming down and giving you a gift that represents it. But it's very powerful, very subconscious kind of visualization.
Yeah, thank you, Jack. I think it's really powerful that if you identify your own values and live by it. And one thing definitely is there. Once, if somebody meets Jack, he is full of love and he's really living it truly by heart. Really appreciate that. So Jack, just, the times what we are facing right now. So we had one question from one of the viewers saying that, what is one thing that you would recommend people to live a happy life and peaceful life amidst this COVID-19 times?
Well, I would recommend several things. You'll find it very difficult to ask me what's the one thing. I always have like two or three.
Sure, please do that. Yeah.
People always say, what's the one principle of all you teach? And I say, well, what's the one organ you'd keep in your body if you could only keep one? You'd die.
I think that's a perfect thing, right? Right.
So basically, I would say meditation would be the top one. There are many forms of meditation, as you know. India is one of the great places where meditation has been taught for thousands of years. And so I meditate for 20 minutes every morning. And I have 3 or 4 different kinds of meditation that I do, depending on, just depends on my mood, really. Sometimes I'll start one and it doesn't feel right. And then I'll do a different one and then it feels right. And so 20 minutes of literally quieting your mind, maybe focusing on a mantra, focusing on an image, focusing on, a passage from scripture that you're contemplating, but something that takes your mind away from the external world and brings you back to connected with source, with God, with the highest energy, intelligence, universal, wisdom, whatever you want to call it. And so that's the main thing I would recommend everybody. The second thing is, in order to stay sane in this world, you have to watch less news. The news is pretty much the same every day. It changes. Today we had 1,000 new cases in Mumbai. Tomorrow it's 2,500, whatever. But the point being that it's so negative, and there's so many lies in the news, and the news basically focuses on what's outside of the norm. I remember when the chemical plant exploded in Bhopal. That was a big world piece of news because it wasn't the norm. And so the news is usually negative things, painful things, robberies, rapes, and so forth. So I would minimize that. The third thing I would do is you want to be focusing on what you want, not what you don't want. When the COVID-19 pandemic hit us, a lot of people started worrying about, will I get sick? Will I lose my job? Will I die? Will my loved ones die, etc.? And, will I come out of the pandemic having lost my home because I couldn't pay my mortgage or my rent? That's what you don't want. And when you focus on anything, it brings more of it to you, especially if it creates negative feelings, because our feelings amplify the intensity of our desire, either pushing something away or pulling something toward us. And so focus on what you do want. I would say to people, as we're going through this pandemic around the world, many of us are in what I call the big pause. We've been asked to go inside and stay there, and we have more time to think. We're not commuting back and forth to work. I see these pictures of Delhi where you can actually see the blue sky, and the same thing is true in
Yeah.
Los Angeles. And so what happens is that we have time to contemplate what's really meaningful and fulfilling in our life. What do we really want to accomplish? What is our purpose? What is our goal? So start thinking about, what is the life you'd like to be living? What is your vision of your ideal life? Focus on that. Focus on the good news. There's a lot of good news out there in the world, people that are coming together to do good things. And there's a lot of good coming out of this. I mean, Black Lives Matter in America is a powerful, powerful movement to say Black and brown lives are important and have not been given enough attention in our healthcare system, our poverty situation, our education system, the police brutality that results from that, racism and so forth. So while there's many things that are negative, there's also many things coming to the light that are positive, but mainly keep your focus on that. And finally, I would say read something every day, or watch a TED Talk, or watch something like this, or a YouTube video. It's of someone that's inspirational, whether it's a guru or a self-help leader or just a comedy show. Laugh. We know when you laugh, you secrete endorphins into the brain. Endorphins are a natural opiate to get you high without all the side effects of drugs. So, Chicken Soup for the Soul Stories would be one thing, but there are plenty of books out there that are spiritual, uplifting, and psychologically positive.
Great. I think nuggets of wisdom flow, and the general law also pours in from the screen right now. Even you're talking, your value is clearly showing up, Jack. One very intelligent question somebody's asking. And the question is that just within 3 months, the entire world has been taken by something negative that people are afraid of. So the negativity spread like even at the speed of light, even more than that. But for the positive things, people like you and so many gurus are working so hard and laboriously well. So much scripture is present there. Okay, that is taking too hard. So what is it, and what is the remedy to it?
Well, it's always easier to spread fear than it is to spread love and positivity. And I'm not sure why that's the case, but it is. There's probably some neuroscience explanation for that. But what happens is when you go into fear, the energy goes to the amygdala and the hippocampus in the brain very quickly. And it kind of hijacks the prefrontal cortex, which is the part of the brain that thinks logically, that thinks intuitively, that thinks spiritually, that thinks creatively. And so it's very easy to get hijacked. And so what happens is when we get afraid, it's very quick, and it takes a little bit of time to come out of that. We go into fight or flight or freeze, and you can't learn when you're running away from something. You can't learn when you're fighting something, and you can't learn if you're frozen. And so we have to come back into a state of neutrality, which is what the things we talked about before: meditation, mindfulness, things like that. Just body awareness, deep breathing, doing our yoga practice, things like that are the things that will bring us back into that balance. Now, as far as speed of spreading good ideas, it does take time. We know that just to reprogram your mind for most things, like if you want to reprogram a belief system, you can become aware of the limiting belief and become aware of a replacement belief. That can be done in a 1 hour therapy session or a guided visualization. But to install that belief so it sticks, so it velcros to the mind, usually takes about 30 days of repetition. That's why you have mantras in religion. It's the repetition over and over that creates the shift in consciousness, the shift in energy, and the velcroing. I say velcro, but so it sticks to your mind. And I think that what happens is most of us don't have the discipline to focus for 30 days in a row without missing a day, because we know if you miss one day on day 16, day 17 is day one again in terms of that 30 days. And so that's why it takes discipline. what happens with negative news, we see it in the morning news, it's on the noon news, it's in the evening news, it's the next morning, it's in your news feed on your phone. So it's constantly coming in and telling you how bad everything is. That's why it's so critical to create a discipline of positive input. I teach something called the hour of power, which is 20 minutes of meditation, 20 minutes of exercise of some kind. So you get your energy flowing, your lymph system moving, etc., your blood flowing, muscles toned and so forth. And then 20 minutes of reading something uplifting or watching, it can be an audio book, whatever. But the point is that it takes time for a new idea to take hold. I mean, for many years, everyone thought the earth was flat. Everyone thought that what was causing illness was bad vapors in the air. And so they were bloodletting people instead of, doing the things we know now with herbs and, essential oils and certain pharmaceuticals and so forth. And so the reality is it just takes longer, which is why all of us need to be involved. But here's the cool part. There's something called the critical mass. John Hagelin in the movie The Secret talked about the power of an intention is the square of the number of people holding that same intention. So when you get a group of people meditating together, holding a positive vision for the world together, intending a positive outcome, seeing India as a, first world country with, all the modern conveniences and great healthcare system, great education system, which you now have in most of the big cities, but not in all the rural areas. If everyone's holding that vision, there was a study done where they had 8,000 meditators meditating on peace in one city. And what happened was that city's crime rate went down hugely by half. And just the positive intention, the positive vibration of that. And so then the question becomes, well, how many people in the world would it take to all be meditating on the same thing at the same time to actually shift consciousness? And you'll see things like World Peace Day, World Earth Day, things like that, where you get these worldwide meditations. And I do believe they have an impact. So the idea is you want to be part of the solution, not part of the problem. And then it'll take as long as it takes.
I think absolutely correct, Jack. And think what the time is, we are all doing a mantra of fear. And if we do the opposite mantra of more peace and happiness, very, very correctly said, which can really, help us.
Yeah.
So very interestingly, somebody has asked, which has been the most defining moment of your life, Jack? And did you know when such moments came?
Well, again, I'm going to give you a couple.
Okay. Sure. Right there, yes.
The first one happened, I was in college and I was looking for an easy A. And one of my friends said there's this course called Social Relations 10. And it was a really kind of an encounter group where people just came together and talked about their feelings. We read books on, emotions and things like that. And as an undergraduate in a highly academically oriented school, which was called Harvard, that was a real explosive experience for me because I'd been in my brain the whole time, not in my body, not in my feelings. And so I said, I want to grow up and do that. And they said, well, you don't have enough classes in psychology. So I got into education thinking I could sneak into psychology through that. While I was in graduate school in Chicago, the second thing happened that changed my life, which was I was sitting in a laundromat, minding my own business, reading a textbook for school, I think. And this guy came up and said, put your book down, talk to me. I'm like, okay. So we started talking. He was a very cool guy. He was a doctoral student in economics. And he invited me to go to a lecture with him by a guy that was teaching. He was from the National Center for the Exploration of Human Potential. It was this lecture series called the Human Philosophers. And they were just amazing people. And it's where I also learned about meditation the first time, a guy named Alan Watts, who was a Zen meditator. And anyway, he said we were only using 10% of our potential. And I went up and I said, I want to use more. How do I do that? And he told me there was a center in town called Oasis. Go there and take seminars. So I started and I was learning about my mind, my body, my mindset, my emotions. It was amazing. And it totally shifted my life. And I said, that's what I want to teach, because I was teaching high school history at the time. And I became more interested in why my kids weren't motivated. And I was now learning about motivation and achievement and things like that. So that was huge. And then I would say the last thing was when I decided to move to California from Massachusetts, where I was living, because all the people in my profession that were famous lived in California. And I wanted to be among the greats and learn from them. And it happened. I came out here. That's where I live now in Santa Barbara, California. And I was just opened up. I started taking seminars with like 500 people. And I learned you can actually teach 500 people at a time, because I'd been like teaching 20 people in a classroom.
Mm.
And so that was a big breakthrough for me. And now I would say the last thing was Chicken Soup for the Soul. When that took off, like, holy mackerel, there's now 600 million books published, and it's invited me to speak all over the world as a result of it.
Yeah, that's
I didn't,
amazing.
and I didn't know any of those were going to be turning points. So to go back to your original question, they just, whether they were divinely guided or I was just, putting out the energy that I wanted the next step and the universe responded, I don't really know which it was.
Hmm. I think that's really amazing.
Okay. I think that's amazing. I think your personal experiences, and when we ask you, give me one thing, and you say, I can lot many things. And somebody asks, tell me one idea, you have 5 ideas or more ideas. That's like a great person, I believe. So the question somebody is asking is that there's a word of knowledge and information. And the information seems to be bending the reality, and the knowledge is taking the back seat. In this chaos of information and knowledge, how do I become wiser when the information is flowing like an avalanche and hitting every day?
Well, I think wisdom comes from 2 places. One is experience. So people with gray hair like I have tend to have more wisdom than younger people because I've experienced more. I've lived through 3 recessions, 3 wars. So I know that life goes on. You don't know that when you're 22 and you're right in the middle of it. So I think experience, and then experience without reflection doesn't give you wisdom either. So we have to have time for quiet time, whether it's meditation or reflection, think about our experiences, and to have some kind of organizing principles, like some wisdom that comes from philosophy. I once realized that all religious experiences, all psychological, schools, whether it's Freud or Jung or the new schools like NLP, etc., it's one person's experience of wisdom that became codified and then taught to others. So, whether it was, Guru Nanak in your experience, or whether it was Jesus or Buddha or whatever, you have these people that are experiencing through meditation, through divine inspiration, through download, if you will, of spiritual wisdom that they experienced either in this lifetime or previous lifetimes, or have learned through their experience, that they then teach, and that it creates followers and so forth. So I think we all need to meditate. I'll go back to that again. Whenever I meditate, I understand my experience more. I get wisdom. Sometimes I'll ask myself a question: how can I better deal with my systems? My sister had a drug addiction for a while. She's sober now, but she had medication where doctors overprescribed opiates, and then she became addicted, much like what happened to Michael Jackson. And so I was upset because I was sending her money every month so she could live, because she was dysfunctional. And I realized I was resenting her for that. And when I meditated on it and said, what can I do to solve this? The answer I got was love her. Just love her. That my resentment was not serving her. It was not serving me. It was not serving my wife, who was also wondering why all this money was going out. And so, when I started loving my sister instead of resenting her, I was then able to be of service to her. She wasn't resisting me, and she began to take more responsibility for her life, and everything's much better now. But that came from meditation. And so I think that wisdom is a result of study, where we can study the wisdom of others because they're passing down what they've learned through practices, through scriptures, through books, through their disciples' teachings, etc. So I think it's valuable to have teachers. And I think, having masters is valuable. Sometimes for me, I've had 3 or 4 different teachers. I know you're studying a certain spiritual practice now that's working for you. And I've studied that as well. And then other things also came in. So the reality is, for me, I'm more ecumenical. And what I've seen is the crossover of what's common to all religious practices, what's common to all spiritual paths. And it's usually love, self-discipline, taming the mind and the emotions, and so on and so forth. So I think, anyway, that would be my advice for people.
I think, thanks, Jack. That's a beautiful answer. If you meditate, you do get in touch with your own inner self. Really, very, very enlightening. So
Yes.
somebody has a very personal question. The person says, I have a habit of over analyzing all probabilities of the situation which prevents me to take chances majority of the time. This leads to low risk, no gain situation. What should I do so that I don't think of these probabilities as they come naturally?
Well, they're going to keep coming. That's the bad news. What you have, the real question is, how do you respond to them? And so the mind's like that little scroll on the bottom of the news feed. It just keeps going across there. The question is, do you pay attention to it? Do you listen to it? I just read an article about a man who is what's called a double triathlon champion. Believe it or not, there are people who will do 2 triathlons one day and then they do another one the next day. I don't know how that's possible. I ran 14 miles once, a mini marathon. I was recovering for days. But anyway, the reality is that he said that when he became successful and became the world champion, he's won it several years in a row, is when he stopped listening to his mind and started speaking to his mind. And so basically you have this monkey mind that just continually is going on with all this negative, in his case, analysis. And we talk about analysis paralysis. And so what he needs to do, or I'll speak to that person, what you need to do is to know that that's not going to immediately stop, but what you can do is stop listening to it and start reading some things about taking more risks, start taking action. Ask yourself, and you don't want to take a big risk and just go out there and bet your whole, net worth on one thing, like, one investment or something like that. But start taking small risks every day, and each day increase the size of that risk. And then you'll be a survivor of risks. What builds self-confidence for taking risks is surviving risks. And so if you make calculated risks, you can use your mind. The mind's there for a purpose, but also your heart needs to be part of it as well. And that's where the meditation would come in, where you could ask yourself, close your eyes and say, ask your higher self, your essential self, your true self to come forward. You can imagine that as a wise being, as a spiritual being, etc. And then ask yourself that, or that part of yourself, what would you do in this situation? What would be a wise risk I could take here? And then take that risk. My wife, when she started running couples workshops, was afraid to call. We were just going to do like 6 couples in our living room to test out the material. And I said, but it's your desire. You want to do this. You got to call up our friends that are couples and ask them to come. And she was frozen. It was really difficult. So she invited her friend Stephanie over. She said, Stephanie, will you hold my hand while I call these people? And she called them up. And the first couple said they would. Second couple said the weekend was busy. Third couple said they weren't interested, etc. About the 6th couple, she had 2 couples that had said yes. She turned to Stephanie and said, you can go now. I got this. And so she survived the no's, she'd survived the awkwardness and so forth. And then she was able to do it. So the main thing is start taking little risks. Don't listen to the mind, that part of your mind, but just do the risk taking. And then you'll see that something magical will start to happen. And it's a slow process. I say that life is a marathon, not a sprint. You want to make sure that you're doing the things. And then, there's things you guys teach in NLP, and there's tapping. You can tap out the fears and so forth. If you don't know about tapping, just go to YouTube and type in EFT tapping, and you can learn how to do that to disappear fear, literally within 5 minutes or less.
I think I loved it. The way you shared the wisdom, like life is a marathon. I think this is a big metaphor. Now, somebody's asking you a question that you got rejection 144 times when you were to get your book printed. What if now, after attained a big success, you once again face number of rejections for something? What would be your response now?
Well, first of all, I'll talk about why did I not stop after 144 rejections, because that's a really important piece of this, is that I knew in my heart, as Shri talked about, we have this essential self, this true essence of who we are, that is not the sum of our conditioning and our fears and our beliefs and so forth, that we can access through meditation. And I felt that I just felt divinely guided that these stories were supposed to be in a book. And so my why was really strong. My belief was really strong, which let me, that I would have self-published it if I had to. I'm glad I didn't, because I didn't want to be a publisher. I wanted to be an author and a speaker and a trainer. But what happens is that once you make a commitment, 100% commitment, this is what I'm going to do, because it's the fulfillment of my purpose, then what happens is you just keep doing it. And so knowing, and so now I have the the experience of having survived 144 rejections on a major project. You know, you have Starbucks in India, and it keeps growing. There's thousands of Starbucks that are starting up, you know, coffee shops. And Howard Schultz, who started Starbucks, was rejected by 217 investors before he found enough investors to open up his first coffee shop. And that was over the course of a year, but he didn't give up because he was so passionate about creating a place where people could come, there'd be tables, they'd have Wi-Fi, and they could talk to each other and study and do all that kind of stuff. And he was committed to that, you know? I mean, everyone knows who Oprah Winfrey is. Oprah Winfrey was fired from her first job. They told her because you don't know how to interview people, which is what she's the best person on the planet now doing. So we have to be willing to hear the word no and say next. And what happens is if you do that long enough, there's always a yes out there. There's a little formula I teach called SW, 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 SW. It stands for some will, some won't, so what, someone's waiting. There's someone waiting for you, for your idea, for your book, for your podcast, whatever it might be that you're doing in life. Someone needs it, someone wants it, someone's out there who will say yes to you. I think the universe tests your commitment by giving you a lot of no's in the beginning to see how committed you really are. And if you're really committed, you stay with it, and then eventually you succeed. And then you become a teacher and you have stories to share because people need to know that it takes time, it takes courage, it takes perseverance to be successful. If success was easy, everyone would be thin, strong, happy, healthy, and wealthy. It's not the case.
Absolutely. I think one thing which I liked about is that, you know, the universe is there and probably universe wants you to hear no's, and then the success is there right at the end of the tunnel. Thank you so much. And Jack, that was so beautifully said. You know, somebody asked a question. It says, I believe that my life has panned out in such a way that I operate from the level 3. That is the surrender to the universal law, which is Michael Beckwith's 4th level in my life. How do you think the success principles help to really operate at this level? What do you have to say about this, Jack?
Well, first we should unpack Michael Beckwith. He's a minister, black minister. It was in the movie The Secret. Many people may remember him. And he's the minister of the Agape Church, agape meaning unconditional love in Greek. And he talked about 4 levels of consciousness. The first level is victim consciousness. Victim consciousness means you believe the world's doing it to you. Your relation to God is, why God? Why are you treating me like this? What did I ever do to deserve this? The second level of consciousness is what he calls the manipulator stage, where you realize there are universal laws, like the law of attraction, the law of reciprocity, which means what you put out, you get back, and so forth, law of karma and things like that. And so then once you understand these laws, you can then use them to get what you want, and they work. This is why The Secret was so powerful and why so many teachers like us teach people things that actually work, because there are laws that you can run your life by. The third level is when you realize, wow, if there's all these laws, what's behind these laws? Is there a lawmaker? Is there something bigger than all of this? And so that's the level 3 that your question refers to. And so it's not, now it's like you say, not my will, but thy will. I'll surrender to God leading my life, you know. And there's a lot of ways in different religions people talk about that. And then the 4th level that Michael talks about is when you realize you are God. You're not all of God. Any more than one drop of water is all of the ocean. But that drop of water in the ocean is ocean. And so then you get to the level of people like Sai Baba in India, who could go like this and drop rings into people's hands because he could manifest something out of nothing simply through his intention. And so what happens is that on the level 3, a lot of people will get there and they'll say, well, why should I set goals? Why should I have a vision? Why should I follow all these principles? Because I'm just surrendering to what God tells me to do. And I think that that's great. God tells you what to do in your meditation. You're guided however you perceive that intuitively, etc. But once you get that guidance, that's then when you want to drop back and use the level 2 tools in order to fulfill that guidance. So I got the guidance internally to put all the stories I knew in a book. That was Chicken Soup for the Soul. Now, once I did that, I had to use all the information I know that's level 2 in terms of how do I do social media? How do I do interviews? How do I promote the book? How do I visualize people buying the book? How do I affirm I'm so happy and grateful as I'm celebrating, 6 million people buying Chicken Soup for the Soul? Those tools then become part of manifesting what you're being guided to manifest. So that's how I see the two related.
I think very nice insight you have given, Jack, and some relevant question in this line. How do I succeed like an author? I have been never an author so far.
Well, the first thing you want to do is write. If you're going to be an author, you got to write something worth writing. So, and I have a friend in Australia who uses the term bum glue. He says you got to glue your bum to the chair, meaning you have to sit somewhere, whether you're writing with a pencil, whether you're dictating, whether you're using one of these dictation programs that are in our computers now, or whether you're typing. But you've got to set aside time. Ernest Hemingway, who was not a Pulitzer Prize, Nobel Prize winning author, would write every morning from 8 in the morning till noon, 4 hours a day. It was a job for him. And most authors I know set aside time, whether it's an hour in the morning or whether, John Maxwell, who's a great leadership person, writes for an hour a day every morning. Other people go to work. They actually have an office 8 to 5 and they write. For me, I set aside time in the evening. I'm an evening writer when the phones are off and my office is not disturbing me. My wife's reading a book or watching television, then I'll write for a couple hours. So, but make it consistent. Secondly, have something worth writing about. In other words, know your subject. I always say the first step to writing and becoming a best-selling author is writing a book. And you have to write about something you know about, that you're passionate about. So make sure, like the Success Principles book that I wrote, called The Success Principles, was 20 years of study of teaching this and interviewing people and running workshops and seeing what worked and what didn't work and gathering stories over the years. So that book, it only took me about 14 months to actually write it and rewrite it and get feedback and rewrite it again. But it took 20 years of work to have something worth saying at that level of wisdom. And that book's now sold millions of copies around the world as a result of that, because it contains that. You have to have a good title today because it has to stand out somehow. So Chicken Soup for the Soul. My Indian friends always go, we do not eat the chickens. Why did you call it chicken soup for the soul? We're vegetarians. But the point being, chicken soup is like kitchery. It's something that is it's a cure-all in the Western world for what ails you. And I got the title through a meditation. We didn't have a title. And so I asked the higher power, I need a title for the book. I meditated every day for an hour a day. And on day 3, this hand came out and wrote chicken soup on a chalkboard. I went, chicken soup? What the heck does that have to do with this book? And then the voice, which I assumed was God, said, when you were sick, your grandmother gave you chicken soup. And I said, but this is not a book about sick people. And then the voice said, people's spirits are sick. They're living in resignation, hopelessness, and fear. And so I thought, chicken soup for the spirit? No, chicken soup for the soul. Then I got goosebumps, what some people call God bumps. And so I told my wife, she got goosebumps, told my co-author, Mark Victor Hansen, he got goosebumps. My agent got goosebumps, went to New York, met with 21 publishers, nobody got goosebumps. So it was like, they said, that's a weird title. But now, after, 144 rejections and finally getting it printed, it's now a brand. That brand's worth hundreds of millions of dollars because it became associated with feeling good, with love, with overcoming obstacles, with courage, with faith, and things like that. So we actually won the Asia Pacific Brand Award for the best brand. Shocking to me. But we didn't set out to do that. But the point was, because we followed that inner guidance, we were doing it. So a good title is useful. And then I would say, this is the big thing for all authors. Most books that are written are read by the author's wife or husband, maybe an agent, a friend, an employee, and then they put the book out. That's 3 people's opinions. Chicken Soup for the Soul, every story in every book was read by anywhere from 20 to 100 people and given feedback on a scale of 1 to 10. How much did the story move you, make you laugh, inspire you, whatever. And anything that scored less than a 9 across the board, because we entered the scores into an Excel spreadsheet, never got published, including many things I wrote. So feedback from the people you're speaking to say it's redundant, you said that before, you're beating me over the head with stuff, don't preach to me too much, whatever. It's the feedback that allows you to get and that's not just for an author, for any product, any service, anything you're doing in the world, you want to ask for feedback.
Yeah,
okay. I think that's very beautifully said, Jack. You have to sit and write the book first. If people don't write and then they have to be an author, it's so difficult. And you have to spend hours and hours on writing it and then have a good, wonderful title.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
you'll spend hours rewriting it. You know, I could
Absolutely.
several authors who've told me they rewrote their book 6 times.
Yeah.
But it's the rewriting where the crafting comes. And when you're writing for the first time, don't edit while you're writing. Just write. Get it on paper. We call it vomit copy. Just get words down. You can edit them later.
Perfect. I think that's one of the keys. Thank you, Jack, for telling us this. So there's somebody who's asking that, when you know that your customers are in a financial pain and they will be, or they're also struggling over for the next many months because of the situation which has happened, how do you
Right.
ask them for business? So what do you have to say about this?
Well, I'd ask them the same way I'd always ask them. But the real question is the fear of looking like you're a mercenary in the middle of a pandemic when no one has any money or whatever's going on in their life. And my point of view is that if you have something valuable, you need to share it with people. Now, if you want to discount it during a pandemic time, you can do that. If you want to make special offers and give more bonuses, that's a good thing to do. It lets people know you know their situation. You know that a lot of people are locked down, that maybe they're not making as much money, that this is a difficult time. So you want to acknowledge that. But if you have something that will help people feel less fear, or you help them have their immune system be stronger, which we all need to have right now in this pandemic time with coronavirus, because if your immune system's strong, you may get some symptoms like flu, but you're not going to die. And so the reality is we want to make sure that if we have something valuable, like the courses I teach right now are valuable because people learn ways to manage their fear, ways to manage their emotions, ways to increase their income, ways to increase their health, increase their relationships. We have relationship problems right now where you've got people living together at home 24 hours a day, where one of them used to go off for 8 hours a day, or both did, and came back. So now instead of spending 4 to 6 hours a day, you're spending like 24 hours a day. In China, when the Wuhan virus hit in Wuhan, divorce rate doubled because people didn't have the tools to know how to relate to each other. So if you have tools that help people do that, this is valuable. So you can acknowledge that you understand that this is a difficult time, but that what you have is valuable for people. And so you feel compelled to offer it and make it available. And then talk about the benefits, not the features of how it's going to benefit them. And then basically, ask for the order. And know that if people can't say yes, they won't. But it's your job to present it. It's their job to either receive it or not. But if you hold back the presenting of it, and if you're awkward and feel uncomfortable when you're doing it, they're going to feel uncomfortable listening to it. And then they're going to think maybe he's trying to, take something from me instead of give something to me.
Okay, amazing, Jack. The one question is coming very personal onto you. It's about one of the characteristics that you're right now displaying. They say, how do you remember so much at this age? And when people wear out their memory and your face is glowing and the love is radiating, it's really, I'm awestruck. What do I do like you?
Well, when you're 20 years old, start taking all the vitamins and minerals and herbs I did. Forgive everybody in your life that ever did anything to you, that you think did anything to you. Meditate every day. I've done meditation and yoga. The yoga is not as consistent as my meditation is. I eat well. I was, when I met you guys, I was in India, in Mumbai. You came to visit me. And that was the beginning of a totally plant-based diet, which I'm now doing. And that's made a huge difference. I've lost about 25 pounds since I first came to India in February. I was there for a month, as you remember. And so I think that's a big thing. Detox your body on a regular basis. Toxins in the body create toxins in the brain, which is one of the things that creates Alzheimer's. And so exercise, I think, is another big thing. We talk about high intensity interval training or aerobic training, or, like you guys do Kundalini yoga, that kind of, vibrant exercise is really valuable. I think that for me, one reason I remember so much is I teach it every day. Repetition is the key to learning. So I have been doing 3 or 4 of these kind of podcasts, sometimes teaching a class, sometimes answering questions like with you, every day since about mid-March. Because we had to stop doing live trainings because we weren't allowed to gather in groups. And so everything is online. And I've been promoting my new book, the Success Principles Workbook, and so forth. So when you say something over and over and over and over, and you learn something and it's so cool, you keep teaching it, then eventually you remember it.
Thank you, Jack. That's so superb. And you have so much of wealth of knowledge and wonderful presence. So, so many people are really interested in helping themselves as well and helping others to improve the quality of life, their personal and professional as well. So, is there any way that they can learn from you, or can they have a storehouse of wisdom available? So, please, Jack, do let all the viewers know that how can they really learn to be a trainer or a coach like you?
Cool. What I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen here. Let me see if I can do that. And I have a couple little slides I'll show you real quick that talk about that. So one of the things I want people to learn from me is what I call the success system that never fails. And why do I call it that? Because there's a system of techniques, a system of beliefs, a system of things you do in a certain order, like opening a combination lock. If you know the combination to a lock, it doesn't matter if you're young or old, if you graduated university or not, if you're male or female, doesn't matter what religion you're in, the lock has to open. The problem is a lot of people are missing numbers in that combination. And so they're working really hard, but you can work hard a million times and not open the lock if you don't have all the numbers in the right order. And so what I've done is created a system that does that. And in my book, The Success Principles, principle number 36 says to learn more to earn more. So if you want to earn more money, and if you want to have more happiness, you want to have better health, whatever it is you want more of, you have to learn things and do things you're not currently doing. 2 + 2 = 4. So the world's out there doing 2. You're doing 2 in response to it. You're getting 4. And then the coronavirus comes along and the world's doing 1. You keep doing 2. Now you're getting 3. You're getting less than you got before. So you've got to change your behavior. You got to change your thinking. And so basically I've developed some courses and some things like that that allow you to do that. So one of the things we have, I'm going to move my things on here so in case you're not seeing that. So I've created an online course called Breakthrough to Success. And it literally is an ultimate masterclass for creating whatever you want in your life. And it covers 10 different areas of your life, tapping into your true power. What is your true power? How do you tap into that? Most people have never been taught that. Think about it, you've gone to school, if you graduated high school, if you went to university, and very rarely do they ever teach you anything about self-education, about how to be successful, about how to use your mind, etc. So what happens is we do that. We talked about discovering your purpose. So all the exercises that I talked about, including the guided visualization, are in this class. Aligning your purpose with your passions. All of us have things that we're passionate about. So there's something called the passion test that was developed by 2 friends of mine, Chris and Janet Atwood. And so we take you through the passion test to discover what am I most passionate about? How does that relate to my purpose? And then how do I combine those two and then create a vision for how to manifest that purpose in life? What's the dream that I want to fulfill in terms of doing that? And then how do we turn our dream into goals? Because a dream without goals is just an intention, a wish, and a hope, and it will never manifest. And a lot of people have goals, but they're not doing it correctly. And I'll teach you some techniques, literally, that take goal setting for most people from 43% success to about 80 to 90% success because of things that are easy to do that most people don't know. There's the numbers in the combination. A lot of you have heard about the law of attraction. You may have seen the movie or read the book, The Secret. We teach you about how to activate and really use that in your life, how to take action and stay in action. Most people take action and then give up too soon. How do I sustain that action? How do I keep myself in action in the face of adversity, in action in the face of obstacles, in action in the face of unexpected things like the pandemic? How do I develop habits of success? Your life is run by habits and your habits are run by your beliefs. And so we have to identify what are the beliefs that you have, most of which were created between the age of 3 and 7, and you don't even know you have. In a recent seminar, the person that went through this with me uncovered a belief that it wasn't okay to make more money than his father, a belief that he'd formed when he was actually in his early 20s. And when he released that belief and replaced it, after the seminar, he made 1/5 of his year's salary in the next 2 days and went on to make 5 times that year what he'd made the year before. Most people, this is the promise I make, you can double your income and triple your time off Wouldn't it be great if you could make twice as much money and have 3 times as much free time in the same year? And so most people that I work with double their income in 2 years or less. I've had people do it in 6 months. I had a yoga teacher. You don't think of yoga teachers as becoming wealthy. She was making $50,000 a year. And 1 year later, she was making $5 million as a yoga teacher. And I explained in the course how she did that. And then you're going to have a creative community that will support you, and you're going to unleash your full potential. So this is a really powerful, powerful course that will get you where you want to go. And because I want to make sure you're fully supported with this and you really know what's going on, the course includes powerful guided meditations. Literally, you close your eyes, I guide you through. When you're first learning to meditate, it's powerful to have someone guiding you through with music in the background, and your mind doesn't wander as much. And then you can practice those meditations and make them part of your daily practice. Every session I teach, there's an audio download. You can download it into your smartphone. You can listen to it, on the way to work. If you're running, you're putting on your makeup, what I call hands busy, mind free time. There's action guides and worksheets for implementation. All the worksheets you would need if you were in a live seminar with me is right there with you. You get a weekly email coaching guide to guide you through the course. So you get, daily and weekly reminders. And we also have built in some bonuses for you. We did about 55 minutes of questions today, but you're going to get 120 answers to frequently asked questions that have been submitted by BTSO students, people going through the course, the things that come up, and you can refer to that. You're going to get a seminar on EFT tapping, where you tap on these 9 acupuncture points, literally developed from something called the 5-minute phobia cure, where you can get rid of fear and any limiting beliefs, any negative emotions like anxiety, etc., can be tapped away. So it's a 2.5-hour video seminar on how to do that. I wrote a book called Tapping into Ultimate Success on it, and the co-author and I take you through that seminar. And then we wrote a book called Living the Success Principles. There's 31 stories of people who applied the principles that you'll be learning, and you'll see how it radically transformed their life. So they're inspirational, and they will guide you through that as well. I want to show you a very quick video here.
Being here with Jack this week has taught me to let go of any of the fears and release the brakes that I have. And, what I found is that he's helped me to feel comfortable being uncomfortable at times. And through that, I found an inner peace that's allowing me to feel like I can go out and do anything that I want to do.
I have a level of confidence in myself that wasn't there before. I'm not sure when that arrived or where it came from. But everything's different. I've shed my retail businesses and just really focused on the passions that I buried for 30 years. Because I had it going on, I thought I was happy until I realized how little purpose and meaning my life really had. And now I get to live a purposeful, meaningful life. And I feel like everything I do really matters. Complete transformation.
Jack is one of those people that you think, maybe I'll get to brush paths with him, but no, he was on stage, he would come down, he would connect with you, he would look you in the eyes. He would make you feel like you mattered. And so one of the things that I walk away with is that when I'm out there in the world doing what I do, I'm going to be able to take that experience and translate that into the people that I meet and to the people that I work with, so they feel that kind of connection and love and warmth. And his work is transformative. This whole experience has changed my life.
The enlightenment that he shares with us and how simple he phrases it and breaks it down for us, it's like you look at him as this guru, but he's telling you can be the same way.
The reason that every person should come to this seminar is because they will find their true calling and their true inner voice to be able to go out into the world and achieve any goal that they'd like to set for
I'm
themselves.
stepping into my own power and being of service to the world. I'm showing my daughters that it is okay to follow your passion and follow your dreams, and I allow them to expand and be curious and use their imagination and share their gifts with the world.
Now, you heard people talking about being at that seminar. The Breakthrough to Success online seminar is actually a recording of an actual live seminar. So all the things I teach that they were referring to in a live seminar, you will learn in this online course. And it's an amazing class. Now, because, and I mentioned this when it was asked about how do you sell something to people in the middle of a pandemic. So normally this course costs $1,200. $1,300, $1,297 in the US. And because of the pandemic and because of the rupees to dollar exchange rate, we're offering this to you in India for $497 US. And if you want to, you can do a 3-month pay plan of $197. And you just go to jackcanfield.com/alpha stars/BST, which stands for BST. Should that be BTS? I don't know. That's very interesting. Go to BSTO, and if it doesn't work, go to BTSO. It'll get you. But I think it should be BTS, Breakthrough to Success. So that might have been a typo done late at night as we're talking back and forth between India and the US at the different time zones. But basically, we want you to get this course and get the results. And as I said, we have the 3 fast action bonuses. There's a private Facebook group that you'll join. You can ask questions there. We have a lot of our advanced trainers go in there and answer your questions. And notice it's 100% guaranteed. You can try it for 30 days. If you're not happy with it, you can ask for a full money back guarantee. We don't want you to do anything that doesn't serve you. So there's really no risk here. So that's the importance of that. So just with that BST or BTSO, make sure you do that, and one of them will work, I promise. Okay, I want to share one last other thing with you. Some of you are out there, you're coaches, you're authors, you're trainers, you're speakers. So we have a certification program, an online train-the-trainer program that certifies you in the success principles. You get a certificate of graduation, and it's based on the book, The Success Principles. We have over 31 students now in 114 countries that are mostly certified. I'd say 3,000 of those are probably certified now. The rest are going through it. And we teach you what to teach. I open my entire wisdom to you and give it to you for a ridiculously low price so that you can teach people what I'm just teaching you. Today was just a little taste of it. But basically, if you want to do the personal development just for your personal development, then you want to do the Breakthrough to Success. If you want to expand your capacity to deliver experiential training. So when we get back in the conference rooms, if you're doing it online on Zoom, we now can break people into small groups, into groups of 2, into groups of 4. We just did a training for online training live where we had 50 people from 17 countries in small groups working with our advanced trainers, getting feedback on their training. It was a boot camp we did. It was amazing. So you're going to learn how to do that. You're going to learn how to teach. How do you deliver? We have something called the Canfield methodology, which shows you the sequence of how you set up a class in terms of humor, in terms of an energizer exercise, in terms of a statistic to get people's attention, in terms of telling a story, and then doing something experiential so people really experience it, not just have a sense of, it goes in one ear and out the other. We show you how to build all that into a 1-hour talk, a half-day seminar, a 1-day seminar, a 2-day workshop, whatever it might be. And we've given you all the slides you need. They're already in there. You just have to, they're both Keynote and PowerPoint. So everything's made for you to do. And also you can, if you're doing one-on-one coaching, you can now coach one-to-many. These same principles will work in that as well. And literally what you learn is you can speak anywhere in the world. You can do it online. We're in 114 countries, so this is culture free. And you're leveraging 40 years of my experience, and you're getting it for nothing really. And why do I do that? First of all, I'm independently wealthy. I don't need the money anymore. Secondly, the other reason is that I want to make a difference in the world. But then why do I charge anything, you might ask? Because what we've learned is if you don't have skin in the game, you don't take it seriously. When we've given away some programs in the past, people don't come in. We can tell if you've come in and done the lesson or not. We have a way of knowing that through the computer. And those people were not as invested. So when you invest something in it, you want to get the value out of it. So you can literally launch a new career. We have a lifetime membership in our worldwide training community. We have a directory where you'll be listed. So if someone's looking for a trainer in India, you'll be in there. Once you're certified. So there's a lot of benefits that come from this. And you get 24/7 access. What does that mean? As long as there's an internet, this course will be up there. You're about to give a talk. You can go and you can what? You can watch me do the same thing. You can watch an exercise that I set up. You can review what some of the questions were that came from the audience and how I handled them. So 45 hours of Success Principles video instruction led by me. Word for word scripts in your, it's a downloadable manual. So you have word for word scripts, which you can memorize and you can then eventually make them your own. There's Q&A sessions where you see how I handle that with people. And then we go online every couple of months, and I do about an hour and a half of Q&A with anyone who's either in the program or graduated from the program. So lots of support. And again, look at all the things, customized success plans to complete the program. We work with you to make sure you get through it. We give you a thing called 52 revenue streams for trainers. It's a PDF report on 52 ways to take an intellectual property and actually leverage it out to a coaching program, to online courses, to, have a podcast about it, all that kind of stuff. Very powerful. I give you a copy of my speaking contract. So if you've never contracted with a person that's hiring you before, you get my best-selling audio courses, the Success Principles, Maximum Confidence, and Aladdin Factor. That's worth thousands of dollars right there. And all these fast-acting bonuses, 3 coaching calls with Patty Aubrey, who's my co-facilitator for this company that I run, and you get the marketing kickstart module, which teaches you how to become a successful speaker, coach, and trainer. And again, I'm just going to show you a 2-minute video, and then I'll bring this to a close.
So since joining the Train the Trainer program, every year my business, my speaking and coaching business, has doubled year over year in terms of sales and income results. So that's pretty fantastic. I'm being booked to speak on many, many popular stages and for well names, and as well as running my own events and doing my own coaching. It's been an incredible experience. Like sometimes I just pinch myself truly. Like I know people will say that, but it's like this is my life. Many weeks I'm working 15, 20 hours a week max. And so for me, it's both the income opportunity, it's the lifestyle, but it's all wrapped around work that's meaningful.
I expected, I think this little, I just got much, much, much more than what I expected. And I think this is the best ever investment that I've made in my life for myself.
And just, you're not talked at. You're actually drawn into the seminar, you're drawn into the information that's provided, you're drawn into the spirit of the facilitator, who is Jack Canfield. And that spirit is so strong that you can't but be transformed.
And the way I explain the online training is I say, he gives you the house. And then I go into the house and create my own design. I put my own carpet, I put my own railings and all that, and so I put my own spin. But what Jack gives you is the house, he gives you the blueprint.
There isn't any price on the planet. So if you're thinking, just thinking, then you have to make the decision to go for it. I promise you, you would never, ever regret it. It's certainly enhanced my life. It's increased my income by 10 times at least.
Jack is just amazing, and the way the Train the Trainer online is set up, it is so easy to follow. You can go through, you can check out the meditations. Anything that you're not sure about, you can go back and watch as many times as you want instead of saying, somebody talked to me and I forgot, I didn't hear that part. You can hear it again and again, and it's phenomenal. It just takes you up a level each time.
Take the limits off your life and go ahead and be all you were called to be.
So basically, again, we have an exclusive India price for this, $19.97. It's about 1/2 of what we charge. Well, it's less than a half. It's about 2/5 of what we charge in the United States. It's regularly $4,997, and you can do a 6-pay plan of $397. And so again, for this one, if you want to register, go to jackcanfield.com/alphastars TTTO. I know those letters are correct on the end, and you get that fast acting bonuses we talked about, the Speaking for Money coaching program, group coaching calls, the 7 steps to becoming a successful speaker training module. Again, 100% guaranteed. So basically, you try it out for 10 days. If you don't think you're getting the value you want, you can certainly ask for your money back. Why do we make that money back guarantee? In 30 years of doing this, I've had one person ask for their money back, 30 years. So if you want to be the next person, that's fine. There's no questions asked. We're glad to do that. But we're that confident because of the value that it produces for everybody. So again, jackcanfield.com, alphastars TTTO. So Martin Luther King said, take the first step in faith. You don't have to see the whole staircase. Just take the first step. I love this cartoon. It says, oh crap, was that today? So I don't want you to be like these two dinosaurs sitting there on the rock watching Noah's Ark float off into the distance. We don't want you to miss the boat. So make sure you're on board for your best future. So I thank you very much for listening. I will escape from this and come back to where you can see my face here. I can do that. I got to stop sharing the screen. Let me do that real quick. All right, here we are.
So I think, thank you, Jack. It was so brilliant. Thank you for answering so many questions. And indeed, I think it's been a wonderful time that you have been given us to all the audiences here in India. And I think it's been amazing. So Sat, you have to say something to him. Yes,
I
please
would
go
say
ahead.
that with some people were asking me a question somewhere that how do I become a trainer, or in this pandemic, people are coming online, and a lot of people are telling that the biggest or the greatest pandemic is yet to arrive is called mental health problems. And
Yes.
I think you already answered the offer that you're given. Two things which way relate to this, you can possibly.
Yeah, look, we have headlines in America saying the same thing. They think that 40% of the population is currently clinically depressed. They think that we're going to have a huge mental health issue. All of our frontline medical workers are suffering from PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder already. We've had several commit suicide. Many just dysfunctional, can't go to work anymore. And then you've got all the people working at the lower level of the income where they have to go to work in order to survive. And that means they're in high risk situations. And so there's a lot of fear out there. And so basically what this course is organized mental health and mindset and skill sets for not going down that rabbit hole, and for being able to help other people not go down that rabbit hole, and being able to be successful and peaceful, and being able to create a future in the middle of craziness. You know, what a lot of people don't know is that some of the best businesses in America were actually created during the Great Depression in the 1930s. A lot of businesses that are now in the Inc. 100, the Fortune 100, were created during the downturn in 2008, 2009, the huge worldwide economic problem we had. And so there are people now getting rich. What I know about people doing online classes, especially live ones, what's happening is that, well, all of our online courses, the sales have gone up. Why? Because people can't go out into the world right now. So if you learn to be able to teach people online, which you can learn to do, which we help you learn to do, what happens is you now have a way of reaching the world. You know, used to be, if you wanted to take our Train the Trainer course, you had to fly to America. You know, one of our first students was from India, Pooja Gupta from Chennai, and she came back and put on the first TEDx talk in India, and she had to fly over 3 times. Now, her husband's a banker. She's fairly wealthy. She was able to do that. When we were in the Middle East, in Bahrain and Kuwait and Dubai and all those places, people said, I can't get a visa to come to America. You know, your president's not real happy about Muslims. So, you know, I'm not proud of our president for that, but that's the reality. And then we don't have the income. So what we're finding is now people, because they can do it online, whether it's from India, Pakistan, South Africa, Greece, Europe, wherever, are able to take these courses now that weren't able to take them before. And if you're offering those courses, if you're a trainer, a speaker, a coach, you can have the world coming to you. People that maybe even wouldn't fly from Chennai to Delhi can now take a course with you online. And so people need this. They know they need it. And we're finding that we're selling lots of programs to people and getting lots of positive feedback as a result of that. So I would just say to everyone watching, take advantage of this time. In other words, Napoleon Hill, who wrote Think and Grow Rich, one of the greatest books ever written, more millionaires would say they would credit their success to that book, including Bob Proctor and myself and some other people. And what happens is, he had a wonderful quote, said, in every adversity is the seed of an equal or greater benefit. So every adversity has within it the seed of something better. Like, we were forced to start doing more online classes because of the pandemic. We've been talking about it for years. And now we're doing it. We're doing more podcasts. I never did that many podcasts before. I'm doing like 3 or 4 a day now. And it's building our brand, our website, our database, etc., much more than ever before. And I think there's a lot of positive things if you look for it and take advantage of it. So it's not the E out there, the event that determines your outcomes, it's your response to them. And so we have a lot of options. And I've just given you all a couple options for studying something and learning to do it and becoming an expert and a practitioner and competent at it. And I hope you'll take advantage of it.
Okay, I'm pretty sure that the audience is quite wise and know that how the online they have a great urge to help or to be helped is the reason they are here. And I think both the offers are really very kind, very generous offers, the way you have given us. And I really thank you for that. I think time has overshooted now. And it's a time to say bye to this lovely audience. I know you can go on and people are here to stay as well. Yet I know you came up so early in the morning to your office. People do not know that's your dedication. Jack came to office 7 a.m. in the morning at this age, just to address the audience at this time to us. And let's give a big applaud, okay? And thank you, Jack.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Jack. Thank you for coming. Thank you so much. Thank you,
all
everyone.
the audience. Thank you, all the lovely people. Love you.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye-bye.